If you have listened to the show before, you may have heard me talk about the Goldbergs. I love this show. The first season it came on, I binge watched whatever episodes were available on DVR. I think there were like 4 episodes. So I watched all of the episodes and I just loved it. And then my family came home, wherever they were from, or where they were at, and I told them they have to watch it with me. So every week we would watch the Goldbergs, and I just loved this show. The whole family thought it was hysterical. So I've been in love with this show for a while. Then I learned, and I've told people this before, I think every character is so perfectly cast, it's kind of ridiculous. Then I learned that one of the main characters, Erica Goldberg, who was played by Hayley Orrantia, is a singer-songwriter. And Cole, you know what happens when I find out people are musicians. I'm a musician. I love music. I was so intrigued by the fact that she was a musician, and I learned more about her. I wish we had more time with her, but we have a limited amount of time because she's so busy. But I'm so excited to talk with her because she has quite a background when it comes to music. Some people know her from her acting. Obviously, Goldbergs is a huge hit. But you may not know how ridiculously talented she is when it comes to music. She has quite the story. She's been doing it for so long. And she also has a really big heart. And this is probably the biggest reason that I'm really thrilled to speak with her, because she has that talent and she wants to use it to make a difference, which I think is pretty special. So Hayley Orrantia is joining us right now. Hi, Hayley.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. I'm so happy you're joining us. I know you're so busy. I wish we had an hour with you, but we don't.
Oh, no, you're so sweet. Thank you so much.
But I really am excited, Hayley, because as I said before you came on, I'm a huge fan of the show. I discovered it. I binge watched all the episodes. I got my family hooked. That's our thing now because I recently got married a couple of years ago. So I have the 3 teenagers, Insta family, and the whole family loves the Goldbergs. We really, really love it. And on top of that, you've got all of this, amazing music background. So let me start by saying, with the Goldbergs, because I want to talk all about your music. I want to play the new music, but doing some research and learning a little bit more about your background, which we'll go into in just a moment. But with the music being such a big part of your life early on, it came to the point where people were telling you, you know what, you have to have some type of platform because it's very competitive in this business. If there's a way that you can get something else going, it might make it a little bit easier to get into the music business and do what you have or can do with your talent and make something of that. So you're on the Goldbergs, but you do have a few scenes where you are singing. So people know that you can sing. So whose idea was that? I'm curious. Was that kind of, hey guys, I sing, can we put this in here? Or was that the people that you're working with, they know that you have that talent, they want to kind of write that in?
Well, when I had auditioned for the Goldbergs, they had no idea that I ever did X Factor or that I had been singing.
Really?
So they just looked at me as an actress in an auditioning room. And I got the role, and I was the one who reached out to them and said, hey, on the off chance that there's ever an opportunity for me to sing in one of the episodes,
right,
I would be more than happy to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And yeah, so they found a way to let me do it the first season, and it was during the karate episode.
Which is awesome.
Thank you.
It's hilarious.
Eventually, they just let me keep doing it. And whether it was a Goldbergs original song or a cover of an 80s song, they've let me sing a lot, and I'm very grateful for that.
And it really is such a fun show. So I want to tell people, of course, you can find out. It's Wednesday night here for us here. I believe it's 9 o'clock, but, check the listings. I want to talk about your music. So we all know you from the Goldbergs, but you have been singing and writing for so many years, Hayley. So let me start off by, I guess, trying to figure out when it was that you felt kind of inspired by music and you started kind of dabbling with either singing or songwriting or both.
Well, I was really young. I mean, I had always loved music, but a family friend had overheard me singing to the radio at age 9. And when I got home, she asked me to sing for my parents, and they said, is this something that you want to, start taking lessons in? And I said, sure. I mean, I didn't think at the time at age 9 that was going to do anything,
Right.
It was just like you would put your kid into soccer when they're young or something. So then eventually it just became what I did and what I loved. And I applied, I was in music school outside of actual school that I would go to afterwards to really study and learn vocally what I could do. And then eventually it led into songwriting, which I've focused on a lot more lately in the last 2 years, writing my own songs.
So
and
how old were you? Oh, I'm sorry. How old were you when you started songwriting? I'm just curious before we go any further.
I think I started dabbling in the whole songwriting thing at age 15, but I started really focusing and loving it probably at 19. So what was that, like 3 years ago?
You're so young.
Yeah.
I don't even want to talk about how young you are because it makes me feel bad. So originally you're from Texas, Hayley, and you know that you have this passion for music, and then you start the songwriting, and now it comes to the point where you realize you want to do something with this. So when does that happen, and how does that happen?
Deciding that songwriting was something I wanted to do?
Well, just music as a whole. I mean, following that, past the I'm taking lessons as a little girl and I'm dabbling in it as a teenager. And you know what? I think I might want to do this, in the bigger picture and maybe for the rest of my life.
Well, this music school that I was a part of in Dallas, Texas is called Septian Entertainment Group. And they had a lot of they took music very seriously. It wasn't just like hey, learn how to play piano.
Right.
It was almost like a training military camp for like young singers, songwriters. And they were very serious. And they had the owner, Linda Septian, had a lot of connections in the industry. And, being 15, or even younger than that, it was a whole new world to me. But I think that during that time was when I really was able to look at it and go, oh, you know what, this is actually something I could do for the rest of my life. And there was a songwriting session that they had where Tim Lauer from Nashville, Tennessee, came down to kind of teach us about songwriting and what it took, because as a songwriter himself, he had a lot to teach us. And so he and I ended up becoming friends, and he brought me to Nashville with his wife, Angela Lauer, and they were probably one of the biggest influences on me musically, and they really pushed me and showed me that, this is something that you can do as a career.
And you decided to go. Well, you did go. I don't know how that came to be, but when you go on the X Factor, what was the thought process with that? Was that something that, maybe I should try to do a reality show, or it just kind of came out, your friends were talking about it, and you said, what the heck? How did you decide to take that step?
Well, I had done all the rounds at age 15 at all the different record labels, trying to do pop R&B music at the time. And, no one was biting, and they all said, you need that platform. And so I kind of started taking acting classes and, just with being a normal teenager. And then my mom kept telling me, you really should audition for this new show called The X Factor, because American Idol had already come out and they had already had a bunch of other music shows come and go. And she said, but Simon's doing this new one, you have to do it. And I honestly did not want to do it at all.
Right.
I've always strongly believed that it was kind of a death wish for a lot of artists, because you're so in the limelight for 4 months and people see you as this really cool artist, like, oh, I hope they do something. And then there's a lot of them that just fade away, and it's really hard for them to come back. And that was something I was really scared of happening to me.
Yeah.
I didn't want my peak moment to be at 17. And I decided, you know what, all right, Mom, I'll try it anyways. We'll see. And then by the time that they had accepted me into the show, I think my mindset had really changed, because I was like, wow, what if something really happens? You get really excited.
Yeah, well, then you see all the other people who are chasing after that same dream, and I'm sure that kind of passion and that drive just kind of really just skyrockets.
Right, and you see all this hope for what could be, and you see how excited these people who are very high up in the industry are about you and what you can do in music, that it was a big shift for me. But then it got really confusing when I was eliminated as a solo artist and then brought back as a girl group with 3 other girls, and we called ourselves Lakota Rain, and they brought us back in the competition. And we made it to 9th place, which was a pretty big deal, because for someone who didn't think that they would really even make it on the show, it's pretty far.
Absolutely. I have to tell you, because we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back and listen to the rest of Hayley's story. But real quick, Hayley, I myself tried out for one show, and I don't remember the name, but it was the worst case scenario in that my mother told me to go for it. And there were so many people there, and there was one guy who was singing who my mother said literally was giving her a headache, who was practicing. He went all the way, and I realized I was eliminated. And I thought I did an okay job. I was so depressed. And months later, it came out that we're looking for the worst singer in America. It was a faux show. The whole show was to, is that terrible? The whole show was to see about getting.
You didn't get it.
I know. I was like, hallelujah. I didn't get to the second round. So we're talking with Hayley Orrantia from the Goldbergs. We all love her as Erica Goldberg, but you will love, love, love her original music. We have more of Hayley and Lovesick. I cannot stop singing this right after we take a quick break here on Middays. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Middays. It is Tunes Tuesday, and I just apologize to Hayley on the commercial break because I'm still kind of sounding a little manly with whatever infection I've been battling. And then Hayley just shared with me that, poor thing, she's had about with laryngitis. Was it last week, Hayley?
Yeah, unfortunately, and I had to cancel a radio tour that I had because I couldn't talk at all. Yeah,
that's not good. I'm supposed to sing for 2 charity events this weekend, and it's the national anthem. I tried in the shower, and I tried to reach certain notes, and nothing comes out. So I don't know how that's going to...
It just goes away.
Exactly. Terrible. So let's talk about the music. Lovesick. I seriously, Hayley, cannot get this out of my head. It's so catchy. You co-wrote it, and it really is. It's a great song. So can you tell us any background about how it came to be?
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, I have to say that it's very important to have all of the songs that I release on my EP or my album be something that's very personal to me. So even if I do co-write with other people, which all of my songs are co-written, it's all my concepts, and I am definitely there to help guide and keep it as true to the story as possible. Now, with Lovesick, it is about a boy, and I was noticing that not only myself, but a lot of my friends were kind of in relationships with guys that weren't great for them, and they kind of knew they weren't great for them. Mm-hmm. But you kind of choose to be in that anyways, thinking, I'm going to change him, and that's kind of what inspired Lovesick. I wrote it with Mark Bright and Corey Crowder out here in Nashville, Tennessee, and it was actually a lot of the lyrics. I read them a letter that I had written to this boy, and we took a lot of the lines from that letter and turned it into the song.
Oh, yeah. I like that. I liked the song before, but now I like it even more knowing the backstory. Let me ask you quickly before we play a little bit of this, Hayley. Becoming a songwriter or starting to dabble in it when you were just a teenager, and I'm assuming you were doing solo writing then, but Nashville is known for co-writing. Everything is co-written in writing circles. Was it a little hard to maybe give up some of that control, or did you find it was just a different experience and have kind of adapted accordingly?
I actually prefer co-writing because, for me, I am confident in what I'm trying to portray to an audience, and especially because they're all things that I've heard through.
Right.
But I know that I am not by any means a professional and know exactly what I'm doing. So I prefer having someone in the room who's done this before and done it successfully and can help guide me. And so that's why I really like co-writing with other people. It's
nice to have creative energy from other people, I'm sure, especially if you have a great idea, as you did. And we're going to hear Lovesick, and this is about a boy, as many songs are, but this has a great little story about those boys that we know we probably shouldn't be with, but you stay with them anyway. So we really do love that song. I've been telling everybody the last couple of days because I've been listening to all the music prior to this interview, and it is so catchy. It really is. So the goal is, which this is really, really hard for anybody to do, considering that most musicians are in Nashville if they're trying to put an album together, a country album. You are trying to do the same thing. However, you happen to be on this little show called The Goldbergs, which is a hit TV show. So you're doing everything with The Goldbergs, and you're out on the West Coast, and then you're flying back and forth to Nashville, and you're trying, I don't know how you're doing it, you're trying to find some time to pull everything together. And That's got to be crazy, Hayley. So what's the thought process there? Because I know you're anxious to get some more music together, but it is a long process, especially because you're already so busy because you do have so many other commitments.
Right. I mean, it is difficult. The Goldbergs films usually 3 weeks on, 1 week off from August to March. So it's a very long process filming the show. But I love it so much, and I actually love being in Los Angeles right now. The stage I'm at in life, it's just like my favorite place to be. But with that said, with the kind of music I'm trying to do and just doing music in general, Nashville is the city for that. So whenever I have a week off, I fly to Nashville and I songwrite, even sometimes 3 different songwriting sessions in one day, which is a little bit overkill, but yeah. It's important to me, and I want to keep writing as much music as possible because, I know that not every single song that I write is going to be a hit, but there's always like one within there that really resonates with other people. And so the more I write, the better chance I'll have at finding that.
Well, I think you definitely have a hit there. And there's something to be said for Nashville as a whole, because I tell everybody it's just one of the greatest cities in the world. It's so... Well, everybody's so nice, that Southern charm, and it's just so accommodating. It just really is a wonderful place, especially when you're trying to get that creativity going. So I have to ask you this, because I did see an interview where, I guess coming off of the X Factor, you were saying that when you wrote, you really felt that you were writing country music, and it was definitely pop that you were doing with Lakota Rain, which for those of you who aren't familiar with Lakota Rain, Hayley was saying she was on the X Factor. You were eliminated as a solo artist, but oftentimes they will take several solo artists and say, hey, why don't you become a group? And that's what you did. And you had some success with that group, but it definitely was more pop. So when did it kind of, click that I don't think this is the path I'm going to go? And were you kind of resisted at all? Because I myself, I love country music. It is probably my favorite genre, but I fought it for a long time. I did not think that I wanted to listen to country music or like it or write it, and now I'm doing everything. So tell me about that experience of kind of getting into the country music set.
Well, even being from Dallas, country was a part of my life, but it wasn't the biggest part of my life. I grew up listening to a lot of R&B and soul and big voice singers. But when I was on the X Factor, we were a pop group, but there was a lot of country influence. And one of the girls in our group was actually a country singer as a solo artist. So that's when I kind of opened my eyes to listening to country music, really listening. And then that kind of like put the bug in the back of my head, like, okay, this is an option. But I still was fighting it even then because there were so many ideas that I had about country music that weren't necessarily true, like stereotypes, thinking that it had to be really twangy and you had to have a steel guitar and all these things about country that aren't necessarily true today.
Right.
So when I sat down and started writing music, it really did come out more like a story, which pretty much is country to me. Country music is really about focusing on telling a story of all different kinds and making sure that it hits home with people versus pop music that it's just, I found 2 words that rhyme and it's a really catchy melody.
And loop them over and over 50 times and we've got a hit.
I know.
Not every song, but yeah.
But I do love pop music, so that's why there is a big influence of pop in my songs, but I have to say I am country pop artist today.
Yeah, and I think, as you brought up a great point, as so many people think that country is that twangy tear in your beer, and it's not all like that. So we're going to listen to some more music. This is such a beautiful song. Until then, Hayley, tell me about this song.
Well, it's kind of a sad song because I had written it about a friend of mine, Elsa, who had passed away February 21st of 2014 of cancer. And she's a really good friend of mine, and I was really devastated because she had passed away so quickly after finding out the news that I was very inspired to write a song about her. And so I came to Nashville, and I wrote this song with Mark Bright and Emily Shackleton. And, I mean, writing with them was awesome, and Emily writes so quickly that she came up with the bridge, all the lyrics to the bridge, and it moved me so much that I was just crying through pretty much the entire songwriting session. So this song is about my friend Elsa.
It really is beautiful. We only have about a minute, so before we play it, and if we run out of time, Hayley, because I'd rather talk to you and we can play the music after you're off. I know you're on a tight timeline, but I love that you like to move people with your music. And I know there's another song which we played earlier in this week that you wrote because you knew people were struggling with image, and that was important for you to let them know that it was okay, that there are other people that feel that way. And I really think it's so beautiful what you want to do with the music. Can you just speak briefly on that of why it is so important for you to put those stories and to hopefully help others with the music that you're creating?
Well, I'm growing up, I've always listened to songs that are more ballads, because a lot of the ballads have a lot of these deeper lyrics that really do move people and even move them to tears. And I have always wanted to gift people with that emotion with my concepts and my ideas. And so I write about things that are true to me and to very close friends of mine, because I can empathize with them. So it's very important to me to kind of touch on subjects that people don't always touch on, but that resonate with all different kinds of people, because I think that everybody's lost someone, and that's why Until Then was important for me to write.
Beautiful.
And everybody does struggle with image.